Hi, everybody. Welcome back to World History. We're going to take a look at Chapter 10 today, the Muslim world and the religion of Islam. Arabia is a large peninsula, which is a bit of land that's surrounded on three sides by water. And in the case of Arabia, it's mostly desert. There were very few cities. Most people lived like nomads, people who wander from place to place looking for the natural resources that they need to survive. Um, Loyalty to your family and to your larger family group, called a clan, all tracing yourselves back to one ancestor, just like Scottish culture grew up in clans like the MacDonald clan or the Campbells or the Camerons or McPhersons or McGregors, that sort of thing. So loyalty to your clan and to your family was very important. There were some towns, even though there weren't big cities. Water would be available in places like towns, and there were trade routes going from east to west, and there were trade routes going north and south, yeah. The most important of these trade route towns where these trade routes would intersect was called Mecca. There was a religious shrine in Mecca called the Kaaba, K-A apostrophe B-A-A. And the Kaaba was very holy and special to many different religions. It was probably a meteorite that had come down from the sky and smashed into the earth right there. And so on that spot, they built kind of a square temple around it, a small temple, the Kaaba. So around the Kaaba, the local religions had placed little statues of their gods. So lots of different religions held it to be a holy site, and lots of different religions had their religious symbolism right next to the Kaaba. Even Jews and Christians, the other group that was monotheistic, one God in their religion, thought it was important because the Kaaba was linked to the very first messenger of God in the Jewish faith and the Christian faith, Abraham. The Arabic word for God is Allah, A-L-L-A-H. Now, around the year 575, a young boy named Muhammad, M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D, although there are many different ways to spell Muhammad. Muhammad lost his parents. They died and left him an orphan. He was adopted by his uncle, who was the leader of the tribe. And that was very important because in nomadic civilizations, if you're orphaned, usually you're simply abandoned to die. But Muhammad's uncle took him in, and instead of allowing him to die in the desert, he was protected and shielded. And this led to an attitude in Muhammad where he always wanted to look after the weak, the powerless, and the defenseless, because it had been done for him. Over the course of his young life, he developed a reputation for being someone who could find compromise and even stop extreme conflict with reasonable compromise. He was wise and well-spoken. He was a peacemaker. At the age of 25, he married the widow of a rich merchant. She was older than him, probably somewhere around the age of 40, I think, and he was 25. And they had a very good marriage, a very supportive marriage, and he took over the company that she had inherited. So she supported him well. He went out and would lead their city caravans, the camel caravans for the company. And they would go from place to place, bringing goods along the Silk Road from China to Europe and from Europe back to China. On one of these business trips where he was leading a caravan of camels, he was trapped in a sandstorm, and he ran into a cave for shelter in the desert. He claimed there that he had been visited in the darkness by an angel, and that the angel told him that there was only one God, the one true God, Allah, and that Muhammad should go and spread the word that there was only one God, and that it was the same God that the Christians and the Jews worship. just the updated version of that God from the Jewish and the Christian traditions. So Muhammad was told there's one God, there's only one God, go out and spread the word that there's only one God. Allah is the true God. So Muhammad went home and told his wife and said, I think I'm going crazy. And she said, no, if you heard this in a cave from an angel, then you need to go do it. That's your job now. Go spread the word. So he spread the word, and those people who were willing to submit to the will of Allah became the very first Muslims, which means people who will submit to God, to Allah. And the name of the religion is Islam, which means to surrender to God. So Muslims are the people who have surrendered to God's will, and the religion itself, Islam, means to surrender to God's will. Now, there were a bunch of other Arabs who were not okay with Muhammad spreading the message that there was only one God, because they had multiple gods in their religions, and those gods would punish the people if Muhammad was wrong. So, because Muhammad went around saying there's only one God, he was ostracized. He was cut out of society, except for those people who believed in his religious beliefs. And unfortunately for Muhammad, he went from being in a position of protection from his uncle to being in a position of extreme vulnerability, because his uncle died and his wife died. And so both of his main supports were gone, and he was very vulnerable suddenly. But luckily for Muhammad, just when it looked like his enemies were going to come down on him and kill him, it turns out that there was a city a couple of 100 miles away called Yathrib that wanted him to come and solve their problems. Remember that he already had a reputation as a great peacemaker. And so Muhammad was asked to come and bring peace to this town of Yathrib. And in exchange, he could live there, and he could bring his supporters there. And so just when it looked like they were about to get wiped out by the people of Mecca, they escaped. They fled to Yathrib, and they managed to actually make peace in the town of Yathrib, these groups that had been fighting for decades. Muhammad came and he brought peace, and he convinced the people there to calm down, to stop killing each other, and he spread the one God religion as well, the monotheistic religion of Islam. And so the town of Yathrib became Medina, which means the town of God's messenger, the town of the prophet. And so Yathrib became Medina, the people of Yathrib became the people of Medina, and all became Muslim. But the people of Mecca were still not okay with Muhammad, so they got an army together, and they attacked Yathrib. Now, there's a blank here that I haven't filled in for you, and the answer to that one, the trip that Muhammad and his followers made to Yathrib, is called the Hijra, Hijrah, the Hijra. So the people of Yathrib were converted to Islam, they became Muslims, and the people of Mecca were very upset about this, and so they put an army together and went and attacked Yathrib. It looked really bad for Muhammad and his followers because he didn't have real soldiers. He just had the people of Yathrib and the people who followed him out from Mecca. And those people were relatively weak. It was the old, the weak, the helpless, and the defenseless who had converted to Islam. And those people had come with him to Yathrib or Medina. So Muhammad was outnumbered, and his troops, if you can call them troops, weren't great quality. But when the people of Mecca, when their army came and attacked Medina, Muhammad beat them easily. It was like a miracle had just happened. And so then Muhammad took his forces and actually went and attacked Mecca. He turned it around on them and attacked Mecca. And amazingly, again, he won. Now, according to the rules of Arab warfare, he would have been completely entitled to go ahead and kill every man in the town once he captured it and take every woman as a slave and every child as a slave and done whatever he wanted. But Muhammad refused to do any of that. He simply said, from now on, you will all join me in believing that there is only one God. I will not kill you, but God gave me victory. Allah gave me this great victory, and therefore you will worship Allah with me. So he exchanged their lives for their faith, which gave him the reputation, enhanced his reputation, because he already had one of being a wise peacemaker. So Muhammad spread the religion and didn't kill people. So he did need to destroy something, though. He was not okay with the multiple statues of all of the gods at the Kaaba. And so he and his forces circled around the Kaaba 7 times. And every time they went around, they destroyed more of the statues around the Kaaba. And he said to the people, if these gods were real, they would defend themselves. If these gods were real, I couldn't destroy all of them on the way to the one true God's monument here, the actual Kaaba. So he destroyed all of those statues in a swirling rush 7 times around it, getting closer every time, and then 7 swirls out again to get away from it. And that's what Muslims do when they go. If you're wealthy enough and able, a Muslim should go to Mecca and go around the Kaaba 7 times on at least 1 time a year. But if you're not wealthy enough or physically not able to do it once a year, you should go at least once. And we'll get to that later. So he went to the Kaaba and he destroyed the idols, the false statues of the gods of these other religions, to prove to the people of Mecca that these gods aren't real. Now, Muslims, what do Muslims believe? Muslims believe in the 5 pillars of Islam, the things that hold up their religion and their faith, like pillars hold up a building. The first of the 5 pillars is that if you're a Muslim, you need to publicly declare that there is only one God, Allah, and that Muhammad was his messenger, and that this is your belief. So, that's the first pillar, that you have faith that there's only one God, Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. The second pillar of Islam is that you need to pray 5 times a day. These are generally done at sunrise, mid-morning, noon, mid-afternoon, and around dinner time or sunset. Muslims are encouraged to do this inside a Muslim house of prayer, a mosque, but they can do it anywhere. If they're out in nature, if they're out in the desert, they can do that. One thing they need to do is to purify their hands and feet so that their offering is pure. And so they wash hands and feet before they lower themselves before God, before Allah. And if they don't have water, because again, they're from a peninsula that's mostly desert, if you don't have access to water when it's time to pray, you can purify your hands and feet with desert sand. The prayer involves bowing very low, basically getting on your elbows and on your knees and touching your forehead to a prayer rug, a prayer mat that you bring yourself, and completely surrendering to the will of God, to the will of Allah, a total surrender. The third pillar of Islam is to give to charity, or as it's called, alms, to give alms, A-L-M-S. Giving to the poor is very important. Muslims consider everyone able to give something, to sacrifice something. The fourth pillar, the fourth of the 5, is to not eat or drink during daylight hours for the entire month of Ramadan. You might have heard of Ramadan. It's a very well publicized religious festival. And during sunlight hours, you are not to eat or drink. In other words, you are to fast. The word fast doesn't just mean to go quickly, it also means to not eat or drink. And so, for example, when you finally have food in the morning after not eating and drinking all night, we call that breakfast because you are breaking the fast of not eating or drinking. So, this fourth pillar is to fast during the month of Ramadan during daylight hours. Now, Muslims aren't supposed to have alcohol at any time. However, you can't even have water, really, during daylight hours during the month of Ramadan. No eating, no drinking. But as the sun's going down, people are cooking, and a festival atmosphere starts picking up. And when the sun goes down, then this gigantic feast comes out, and all the hours of sacrifice that you've had to make on behalf of your religion are suddenly blown away by a giant party of fun and food. So, the month of Ramadan, during daylight hours, you're not allowed to. We have Muslim students here at Greeley, and I did ask one of them about 15 years ago what it was like. Was it really difficult to do? Was it easy to do here in a school environment during daylight hours? And he said, "Oh man, Mr. Curry, it is so hard. I mean, I do it because I love Allah and I love my religion and it's important to me. But to be in the lunchroom, to sit there while everybody else is eating lunch, to walk by the water fountain in between periods and know that I'm sacrificing in order to not go over there and take a drink, even though I'm so parched. It's tough. It's really tough. But I do it because it shows my faith." The fifth pillar is to make a religious trip. We call that a pilgrimage in English. So you make a religious trip to the city of Mecca. And this one is to go visit the Kaaba, where Muhammad destroyed all the false statues, all the idols. And this trip that you're supposed to make at least once a year if you can, and once in your lifetime if that's impossible, is called the Hajj, Hajj. People with enough money should try to do it annually. The best part of the Hajj was cultural, outside of its actual religious significance. The best part of it is cultural because if you think about it, Muslims from all over the world are coming, especially during the month of Ramadan. That is a really important time to come. And so people from the Philippines, people from halfway around the world are coming to Mecca at the same time as people from halfway around the other side of the world. And so you have all these people converging on one city at one time. And if you've invented something cool in your hometown in North Africa, you want to bring it with you, or multiples of it. You want to bring it with you to Mecca and sell it when you get there so that you can have enough money to make it home and to get souvenirs and interesting things when you get to Mecca. Meanwhile, somebody else from the Philippines is bringing something from the other side of the world. You can sell your thing to them and you can get something from them, and you can both bring things home. And it's an incredible benefit because it spreads trade, it spreads technology and invention. In Europe, they were generally backwards in terms of technology. They didn't travel very far ever in their lifetime. They would never find out new technology from, even if it was only 50 miles away, they may never see it. But from thousands of miles away, people are coming to Mecca and bringing new inventions and bringing products and bringing food, seeds of different grains or spices that you can plant when you get home, so that no matter where you're from, you can have something from anywhere and everywhere that other Muslims live. All you need to do is go to Mecca once a year and buy it when you're there. Really cool. Muslims are not allowed to eat pig and not allowed to drink alcohol if they want to stay strictly observant of their religion. These and other rules are found in the Muslim version of the Bible, the Muslim holy book, called the Quran. And you can spell it a number of different ways. You could do Qaaran, you could do Koran, you could do any combination of the above, really. All Muslims should be reading the Quran in its original language, which is Arabic. And so in order to get the magic out of the book, they believe you can get the meaning out of the book, but they also believe that because Muhammad dictated was dictated, this book, by Allah, that Allah gave Muhammad all these messages, that there's magic in the original words in Arabic. And so Muslims need to learn Arabic. Muslims don't believe in really having clergy members who lead them strictly. They don't have a very strict hierarchy in many cases, unlike Christianity, where in the Catholic Church you have the Pope and you have bishops and et cetera, et cetera. There's less of that hierarchical leadership in Islam. You are supposed to have a personal relationship yourself with Allah. You go, you pray on the prayer mat, and most people leave after the prayer. They do have some religious leaders. Not all Muslims would choose to follow them. They're wise men. Now, another source of Muslim rules and how to behave and live is from the Sunnah. The Sunnah is like the life story of Muhammad and all the good things that Muhammad did that you need to follow. You need to make sure that you go ahead and imitate the life of Muhammad. Kind of like for a while it was really popular to wear bracelets or something in the Christian religion, WWJD. What would Jesus do? Well, in this case, it's more like WWMD. What would Muhammad do? Try to live a life as pure as Muhammad's. This, the Sunnah, combined with the Quran, makes up something that we call Sharia law. And Sharia law is very old-fashioned. There are millions of Muslims in the world today who don't follow Sharia law because it's kind of old-fashioned and really strict, the same way that there are lots of Christians that don't follow some of the books in the Bible, like Leviticus. Or, many Christians and many Jews don't choose to live a lifestyle that restricts them to what the people in the actual Bible did. So the modern Muslims, many of them, don't follow Sharia law. Muslims believe that they are the same religion with the same God as Jews and Christians. They feel that they are the most advanced version because first there was the Jews, and the Jews said someday there'll be a messenger from God. And Christians said, oh yeah, we found that guy. It was Jesus. And he wasn't just a messenger of God, he was God's son. Now, some Jews believed that and went ahead and became some of the very first Christians. But there were lots of Jews who said, no, this isn't the right guy to be the messenger of God, and they stayed Jewish. Now, Muslims believe that their messenger, Muhammad, is the most recent version of Abraham and Moses and Jesus, the most recent messenger bringing messages from God, from Allah. And that therefore, because he's the most recent, he's the most important, the most updated version. Sharia law says that all three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are the people of the book, because all three can trace back to the Old Testament or the Torah, the Jewish Torah, and that all three religions, all being monotheistic with the same God in their belief system, should try to work hard and get along peacefully. So that was Chapter 10, Section 1. We're going to take a look at Chapter 10, Section 2 next.